Rev up your engines!
Well, as usual, Hertz is in the news for not good things. They're being sued for $529.7 million by the furious customers who were arrested and stuff, saying that, hey, we rented a car from them, and then the police arrested and said it was stolen. Now, according to the filings, for years, they say Hertz has been reported as cars stolen that weren't really stolen because they didn't even know where they were. And I quote the lawyers for the people who are suing them. Hertz ensnared its customers in accusations of car theft, throwing them in jail for felony charges, prosecuting them, burdening them with criminal records that impact their livelihoods, and separates them from their family members. Now, they claim that they're subsidized by the federal government because they are saying Hertz, they didn't know where the cars were. They just said they were stolen, then the police would find them and bring them back, using the police as a repo agency, right? And it's some really weird ones. Some of the renters extended their renting, but it turns out on your credit card, they put a certain hold of money while you rent it. Those temporary holds. Well, the temporary holds didn't go through for whatever bureaucratic reason. And then they decided, oh, then they're stolen. And they had the car illegally, even though they'd rented it to them. And they claim that Hertz was doing things like, okay, they extended their rental, but Hertz backdated it to say, oh, no, that's the old rental. They didn't pay for it, so the car's stolen. That they're badly overdue, and then they try to get the police, so they're stolen. Find them and bring them in. Now, some of these customers reported, not just to the lawyers, but to CBS News, they said the charge went through, they charged us for the car, but they still said it was stolen. So Hertz, even though they were legally rented, filed a theft report against it, and then they were arrested. One guy was arrested and even spent 4 months in jail for this. So, hey, great, sue these people. Obviously, they're scumbags. Big corporations, they don't care. Everything falls through the loopholes. Hertz took advantage of the bankruptcy law to not have to pay their creditors. You know, these people are scumbags, let's face it. And of course, Hertz won't admit anything. They're saying, well, most of these people, they were way overdue. They owed us money, blah, blah, blah. You know, they just cover it up. I hope they lose the suit. That's all I gotta say. They screwed everybody over by going bankrupt and not paying their debts. Now they're worth all this money and they were buying their own stock back. There's a lot of shenanigans going on with that company. You know what I say? Don't rent from them. Get even with these scumbag companies and don't buy their products. And then they can talk all they want about how they care about their clients. Yeah. They don't have any clients, then they can really go bankrupt and won't have any money to play with. After all, we still have a choice. You know, we're not forced to use Hertz. Don't use them. That's what I say. Get even with them that way. Then you won't get thrown in jail saying your car was stolen even though you paid for it and rented it. Speed said, I put Seafoam in my crankcase and fuel tank on an 018 Malibu with 73,000 miles after I bought it. A mile later, I got less acceleration and a ticking noise from the fuel pump and fuel efficiency down. I changed the oil, but it persists. Any ideas? Yes, you should have watched my videos where I say don't use Seafoam, especially in the fuel tank. Seafoam is called Seafoam for a very good reason. Originally, it was used in outboard motors that were two-strokers. Two-stroke motors, you mix oil with the gasoline to run it, to lubricate it and clean it out. It doesn't have any of that nitrogen base that all the good cleaners have. It's completely different formulation. You don't want to put kerosene in your gas tank in a modern car. It's got catalytic converters, oxygen sensors that can eventually ruin them. Well, now you say your fuel pump's ticking. It might have ruined your fuel pump. If I were you, I'd pressure test the fuel pump, and if the pressure is low, I'd replace the fuel pump or change the fuel filter. You could have damaged it. I don't believe in using that Seafoam. They spend a lot of money advertising. They pay the auto parts stores extra money to have it right next to the cash register when you're checking out. Those are kickbacks that the companies get to put that in the front, so they sell it. It's expensive stuff. It costs almost nothing to make. Kerosene is cheap, and they charge all that money for those little bottles. It's all marketing is what it is. Don't use this stuff. Now, you already did. Fill it up with good gas. Drive it around. When that tank's empty, fill it up again. If the noise goes away from the fuel pump, then it didn't damage. Maybe it picked up some crud that got stuck and it blew its way through. But if it continues to make the noise, you're going to have to change the filter and the pump too. It's really not good for modern cars. Unless you got an old Saab Sonnet from the 60s that was a two-stroke car, in which case it's fine then. And Dova says, I'm looking at a Toyota 4Runner 2010 with low mileage. It says it's got 40,000 miles, but Carfax said it had a non-major accident. They said it was all fixed. Could they have messed with the odometer? They want $23,300. Man, people have lost their minds. They want $23,300 for a 12-year-old 4Runner. People are just asking ridiculous prices for stuff. If it says it's got 40,000 miles, maybe it does. Who knows, right? You're going to have to get real records, oil changes, inspection. Generally, though, let's hope it came from a state that did yearly car inspections. If it did, you can get all that information. And then you just say, did every year the mileage go up a little bit? And it wasn't all of a sudden had 190 and now it's got 40 because they changed the odometer. You need that kind of proof. Now, I'd never pay that kind of money for a car that'd been in a wreck that's 12 years old. I just don't care. It would have to be whistle clean. I still wouldn't want to pay that kind of money. I'd get one with a little bit higher mileage on it than pay that kind of money for a car that's 12 years old. It's a 12-year-old car and you get no guarantee. Realize that. Think twice on that. But you would want absolute proof that's the real mileage. And as a car inspection done each year, they have to put the mileage down. And that's public record. You can get that, and it is. At least you'll know the mileage is real. Beaver says, Scott, you seem like a beef and potatoes man to me. I want to get from point A to point B with the most reliability and cheapest cost, so I'm happy. But suppose I'm a high schooler, and I want to impress the girls while on a budget. What type of car am I to buy so the girl feels she's with the winner? Well, one, what do you want? Do you want a gold digger who's with you because you got a fancy car, or somebody who's really nice and you get along? Okay, I've been married for 43 years. And when I met my wife, I had a Ford Maverick that I paid $500 for. And you don't want to have to press people too much. It's the wrong way to go. You want something reliable, it's going to go. Honda Civics, get a Honda Civic, you know. They're good looking and they zip around, especially if you get a standard transmission, you know. I mean, if you're high school and you're trying to impress somebody with a car, how much money do you have in high school, you know? That's why my first car I paid $550 for. I didn't have much money and I paid cash for the car. Saved up and paid cash because I started work when I was 14. Don't think too much. You're going to be driving around in a Jag. You're not going to have the money to either buy or fix the Jag. So maybe think differently about what type of girl that you want to meet versus trying to impress somebody by the vehicle that you drive. The fact that you actually have one and you drive around should be enough, you know? You got to have some personality for that. The car isn't going to make it for you. It's got to be you that's impressing them, not the car. Well, here's something I can't help but laugh at. I read this article. It says BMW has a new partnership with the Indian motorcycle makers TVS, and they think that's going to bring more affordable electric motorcycles to people. Now, this company TVS that makes the Indian motorcycles, they're getting into electric vehicles, right? How anybody in their right mind would think BMW is going to be involved in making electric motorcycles cost less. They make extremely expensive cars. Why all of a sudden they're going to make inexpensive electric motorcycles? I don't think so. And of course, their idea of more affordable, what? If they're $15,000, they're going to sell this for $14,900 or something, you know? I can never see BMW being involved in affordable anything. It's a luxury car maker. It's not making affordable cars. As usual, read the fine print. They say that at the earliest, it'll be 2 years before somebody will be able to buy one of these BMW Indian TVS company-made electric motorcycles, so it's still 2 years in the future. And all I got to say is anybody that thinks you're going to save money buying a BMW or anything is out of their frickin' minds. Electric motorcycles are expensive. That's just the way that it goes. I mean, if you look at the real electric motorcycles, the one that's been around the most, that Zero one in California, they make screaming motorcycles, but they cost a fortune. The decent ones are 20 grand up. You know, they're very expensive. And so if they say, well, the BMW is more affordable, like I said, what's it going to be, $19,500 instead of $20,000? I can't see BMW building anything that's affordable to anybody. They don't make affordable stuff. They make luxury stuff. So we'll see 2 years from now if they actually do start selling them what they actually cost. Well, Tesla said it again. It turns out that they were selling cars listed as 2021 cars, and some of them had batteries that were made back in 2017. Now, if you know anything about batteries, they degrade over time. Now, these are used demo cars. Some of them have as little as 520 miles on them. They're selling for $62,000 a piece because, of course, Musk keeps raising the prices of the cars. Now, even Tesla admits that with a battery that's 2017, it could lose 12% of its range. Yeah, you know it's going to be more than that. They always lie about it. Say, oh, you can go this far, and then in the real world, you get in one and find out it doesn't go that far. Well, with the degraded battery, that's 2017, so that's 4-year-old battery in a car that's 2021. Not such a smart idea. Old packs made in 2017, old battery packs, in their 2021 cars that they're selling to people as demos. Obviously, it's a cost-cutting thing. You know, oh, well, they're just demos. We'll put these batteries in. No one's going to notice. Well, guess what, Elon? People notice. You spend 62 grand for a car, do a little research and find out you got a battery that's 4 years old and you're buying a car that's 2021. As usual, they're pulling fast ones. You know, it's a company that's made for pulling fast ones. I guess you might call them the P.T. Barnum of the 21st century with some of the stuff that this guy tries pulling off on people. And then, oh, no, smoke and mirrors keep staying up. You know, he's got to keep it up until he sells all of his stock options that are due in 2022, and then he can't sell them anymore. So who knows what shenanigans the guy's going to pull between now and then when he sells them all. Because if he doesn't sell them by a certain date, 2022, the stock options don't exist anymore, and he doesn't make any money. So, you know, he's going to pull them all off 2022 to try to get it up as high and keep it up so he can can sell all that stock and be worth a small fortune in the real world and not in the stock world where I'm worth all this money. Yeah, try selling the stock. See what they're really worth. We'll see by the end of 2022 how it all pans out. This will be a very interesting thing to watch. So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.